Hi, it's Liddell here from Adelaide in Australia. I'm going to do a little video for you this morning on Crafters Workshop templates. I've got a couple here that I had a little play with some embossing powder and some Shimmerz paints. So let's go. I'll show you what I did. Okay, this is the layout that we are going to put together. It hasn't been glued down properly yet and not quite finished, so I'll take some photographs of it and include it in the blog post. You can see it below this video. And you can see how I've embossed the background and sprayed shimmers over the top using this template. So it's a little bit different finish than when you are just laying the template down and spritzing around it, but it looks equally as nice. Now I've done some earlier here. This one is using the blings and this one is using the Shimmerz spritz. So you can see they're very similar colours, but one's just a little bit more intense. And I'll show you how I did this. Okay, so instead of spraying straight on top of my template today, like you can, I'm going to put some embossing ink over the top of it. So I'm just going to hold it down, try and keep it still while I do this. And I'm just going to go out a little bit just to make it look not so even. And hopefully the embossing ink will settle down into the pattern of the template. And I'm just going to make it come out a little bit. And the best way to pick these up without getting your fingers all dirty is just to get a pair of tweezers. I'm going to do this with a clear one, so I just keep my embossing powders in a clear tub with a spoon, and that way I can guide where the powder's going to fall a little bit better. It's just a little bit easier to use. I can tip it all back into the container quite nicely. So this powder is just going to stick to the embossing powder, and you're going to be left with the actual pattern of the template. I can see in there's a little part that hasn't caught the embossing powder there, but that's okay because I can probably sit my photo over the top of that and nobody will ever do it. There you go. Now, I don't know whether you can see that. You can see that it's a bit glossy. So this is where the magic happens. I've got Vibes, Shimmerz Vibes, and in Jenny Be Blue. And you just swirl it around so that the sediment down the bottom gets mixed through the spray, the paint. And then just lightly spray over the top. And you can do as much or as little as you want. You can see here where it didn't take the embossing powder very well, but like I said, I think I'll be able to fix that. Now I'm just going to wipe up the excess of the white with a baby wipe, and you're just left with the white resist. The image there, and you can see it's quite effective. You've got the shine of the embossing ink, and also the glimmer of the shimmers. Now you can keep going and do as much as you like. You can add it a little bit further around the edges. You could also go in and add a little bit more. This one's the Shimmerz, it's in a very similar colour, and it is Tickle Me Turquoise. So you can go in and add that in. That'll just be a little bit more iridescent as a watercolour paint on the top. And that was what I'd said before, made the more intense colour on this end compared to just the spritz there. So I might go ahead and do a little bit with that. I might just get my cloth and just use a little bit about what's in the lid. You don't want to wipe over too much of what you've already just put on, because the top layer that you wipe off with a wet cloth will be the iridescent part of it first. So just do it very gently and lightly, and you can keep some of the shimmer. I don't know whether you can see it there. Okay, so that's my background, and I've got a few little bits and pieces here that I'm going to alter and leave the printed paper as it is, but these other things I'm going to spritz all these little bits. Now this one's just a tub of Shimmerz, and it's a little watercolour paint that has quite nice pigmentation and lovely glimmer. So I'm just using a brush, and I'm just going to paint that on. I can just use what's in the lid. Goes a long way. You can do one or more coats depending on the intensity of the colour you want, how much you want the white to show through. I'm going to use the Jenny Boo Blur in the vibes. You just swirl it round to release all the shimmer from the bottom, and then you can just give it a spray. And now I've just saturated a bit more with what's left over on the mat. Pick up all the glimmer. And then you've got a very pretty blue piece of lace. Okay, I'm going to use, this one is magenta, just in the Shimmerz. Give it a good shake up. Now if you want a more intense colour, you can actually paint white on your chipboard first, if you want it a more true to, you know, the colour that's in the pot. Now these little buttons, I just made these. They're just really rough little hand cut. I just cut a square and then just trim off the corners into a rough circle. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can trace something that's circular if you want a perfect circle, but I quite like the, you know, you don't want bobbly bits hanging off the edge, but I quite like the imperfection of just a roughly little cut circle. And then I'll just use my crocodile to punch the little holes, and I'll just use the smallest little punch to create the look of a button. That's very sweet. I'll just show you the way I dry my things here. I've got a magazine covered in alfoil, and it makes it a little bit easier because you don't actually get any heat on your surface, or very limited heat on your surface, but it also makes the bottom hot as well, so it heats up and embosses and dries quicker than if it's just sitting on your surface, your bench top or wherever. Now this little heart I've just covered in impasto medium, which is like a texture paste, just an art medium, just to make it a little bit chunkier, and it takes a while to dry, so this one's not dry yet, but you can see that it's quite thick, and it'll straighten out when it's dry. It's quite flexible when it dries off, but I'll be able to spritz that in a little while and make it match my colours as well. Now I also wanted to spray my ribbon. It is a blue piece of gingham ribbon already, but I'd just like to change the colour a bit. So that will keep the gingham pattern, but we'll just alter the colour to match my layout. And I'll just set that over here to dry as well. This is just a scrap piece of white paper that you can create some pretty patterns on, ready to stamp over the top or use on a layout or on a card. Cut up into tags. So I'll just spray this little heart. Now I've just heated this up, and because the heat gun was so hot, it kind of bubbled up the texture paste, which is quite a cute effect. I'll take that off to dry again. I'll just go over a little bit with this one, just a bit more intense colour. Get in all the little crevices. Piece of scrap paper. You can go around the edges too with what's left over on your brush. Create some quite pretty edges. Just let those to dry. Page. You can see how everything tones quite nicely now that it's using all the same spray bottle. And then I can pop these all around. And I can create my page. I hope I've given you some new ideas on ways to use the templates and the Shimmerz paints. Thanks, I'll see you again. Bye.